Hey, Mikey beat me in here already. What's going on, everybody? Going to give everybody a chance to log in. If you could, just go ahead, say something in the chat. What you've been watching today, what you've been doing today, how you've been wasting your time. I've been out here doing a lot of studying. I'm out on our back porch because it is an awesome day. Kayla's been watching a few different shows. All right, Mikey saying hey. Can I get some of you other people watching to say hey or something? I've been nice and stocked up. Hey, Emma, what's going on? Been stocked up on my Diet Coke. Don't worry. Maybe the one thing that we have more of than anything else. What's going on, Charlie? Miss seeing you guys on Sunday nights. All this isolation's probably getting to all of us. Leighton, what's going on? Yep, I've been working on my beard. It's coming in really nice. The longer we're out, the more it's going to grow. Oh, that's cute, Leighton. Are you and Kenyon watching together, cuddled up on the couch? Hey, Jason, what's up? Oh, that's so cute. Oh, you all are in bed together. That's cute. Brotherly love. I'm going to give everybody just a little bit longer to get on. I've got some announcements to start off with, and then we'll get into a little bit of study for tonight. Any of you guys been outside? Anybody doing anything outside 6 feet away from everybody else? Been a lot going on. Watching Andy every day at 5. I just got done watching him, seeing what's going on. Can everybody hear me okay? The audio is a little bit different because it's coming straight from my laptop rather than with a microphone or something. Allison and Ethan, nice to see you guys. Kayla, don't lie. You did not watch Andy. You were in there watching your TV show. What? I can't hear you. Kayla's inside yelling at me. I can speak up. I mean, the one thing I can do is always be louder. Hey, Ethan. Yeah, I'm sure Mikey and Kayla can probably hear me better than everybody else can. All right, so want to run down over a few quick announcements as people continue to join in. First off, hopefully you guys have been on Instagram this weekend. We've been having our food bracket going on. Apparently somebody's coming out to join me on the porch. Maybe not. Food bracket for cereals going on. We've had some pretty epic matchups, pretty epic takedowns. Here's what we got left, though. This week we're going to be going on. Okay, I will talk louder, Leighton. Here's what we've got going on. Thursday's matchups are going to be the number 1 overall seed, Cheerios versus Captain Crunch. Then the 4 and 5 seed will be Lucky Charms versus Fruit Loops. That is Thursday. So if your favorite cereal is Thursday, make sure you get on Instagram on the story. Vote for your favorite. Then Friday's matchups, we have Fruit Loops. I'm sorry, no, I got that wrong. Number 2 seed, Frosted Flakes versus the 10 seed, making a little Cinderella story, Apple Jacks. And then also on Friday is Cinnamon Toast Crunch versus Fruity Pebbles. So got a lot of interesting matchups. My favorite cereal's already gone. I love the Cookie Crisp, but may they rest in peace in this bracket. Other thing we got coming up, we're going to be doing an online scavenger hunt. It'll probably be on YouTube. Each household is going to compete against one another. I get it, Leighton. Turn up your volume. Put your headphones on. I can't speak any louder. My neighbors are already outside looking at me because they think I'm doing something strange. But anyways, scavenger hunt is coming up. I don't know if we're going to do it on a Sunday night. Feel free to leave a comment. on what night would be good for you guys to do some sort of scavenger hunt at your house with your family. It'll be like you texting in stuff. Hey, stop. Come here. My cat's making noise. All right. So tonight's study, this is the final week that we're going to be talking about this Storyteller series. And I want to start off by talking about one of the things that I have been entertaining myself with for the last 2 weeks. You know, I watch a lot of Marvel movies. I watch a lot of Star Wars movies. But there's one show I've been going back and watching a lot of on YouTube, and that is the America Ninja Warrior. I know some of you guys love the show. I personally love watching just all the different people falling. But one of the guys that I really love is Joe Moravsky. If you watch the show, you know who this guy is. He looks like just your average dude, but he is a weatherman, and he's a pretty epic weatherman. He gets through the course like it's nobody's business. But my problem is a lot of times when I'm watching this go on, I see these simple guys falling on things that look really easy to do. And I sit there in my nice comfy chair and I think, why in the world would you fall at that moment? How could that little item screw you up? How could that little obstacle make you fall into the water? But then, you know, I'm one of those crazy people that will also go to like a park and try to get on the monkey bars and try to do some of the stuff. And that doesn't work as well as it used to. And I'm there making fun of people for making this look so easy that I think even I can do it. And I make fun of them for falling, all that sort of stuff. But it reminds me of something else when it comes to our church lives that we often think is a lot easier than it actually is. And it's something we talk about a lot, and that is forgiveness. We're going to talk about that tonight, the whole I forgive you thing. And it's one of those things that if you have a chance to talk to your small group tonight, you'll probably go into it thinking, I know exactly what we talked about. We've talked about it before. We've even been over this story before. Like, we get it. Forgiveness is important. We need to do it. However, actually forgiving someone in real life is actually very difficult. It's basically what I would compare it to is trying to be like a ninja warrior, because forgiveness is easy until you actually have to do it. And Jesus understood this. Jesus understood that it was really hard to actually forgive somebody. He knew that this was going to be a struggle for human beings for all time. And sometimes we think we're decent at it, except for that one situation that we don't really enjoy talking about. So our story tonight is going to come from Matthew chapter 18. And I don't have slides, guys. So you've got to get out your Bibles. If you're watching this together, try to get somebody with a Bible. Try to get somebody to pull up on their Bible app on their phone or something to look at different ways that you can view this. I'm going to read it for you, but I'd love it if you'd read it along with me. Again, this is Matthew chapter 18, verse 21. And as you're doing that, one of the things I want to help you guys remember is that the book of Matthew, while it's one of the four Gospels, is written to a different crowd than the other three are. You see, the book of Matthew was written to people who were Jewish, who were converting to Christianity. And what you've got to realize about these people is that they are very, very set in their ways as far as the rules and laws of their religion go. They were people that did every single thing by the book. They followed all the laws as best they could. They followed all the rules the best they could. And a lot of times the religious leaders that were head of the Jewish religion would probably make up more laws than there ever needed to be. They would expound on laws in such a way that it made it hard to follow for everyone. And so Jesus knows this good and well when he gets into this story. And Matthew knows who he's writing to. And there's a reason why this story is exclusive to the Gospel of Matthew. You see, a lot of stories within the Gospels happen in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they're just told in different ways. But this story is exclusive to this book because I think it carries a lot of what we think legalistically about what forgiveness is. So this is Matthew chapter 18, verse 21, and I'm going to read it for you. Here's what it says. Sorry, the wind blew my page over. Here we go. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? And when Peter asks this, he's thinking, I'm actually going above and beyond what's required in my day, because rabbis at the time wouldn't teach that you'd forgive someone 7 times of doing something wrong to you. Instead, they would just teach that after 3 times, you no longer have to forgive someone. So this is like the ultimate brownie point earning answer or question that Peter would be giving to Jesus. He's actually going above and beyond the call of duty and saying that we need to forgive somebody up to 7 times. However, look at what Jesus responds with. In verse 22, he says, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times. Now, some of you guys have been working on some NTI math work. And you know that 77 is a lot. In fact, some of your Bibles may even say 70 times 7. And this is not supposed to be an arithmetic lesson. This is not supposed to be about math. Instead, this is supposed to be a number that helps people realize that forgiveness is supposed to be complete. It's not supposed to be something where Peter, on the 78th time somebody does him wrong, is no longer supposed to forgive them. Instead, it's supposed to represent that no matter how many times you have to do it, you need to forgive somebody. And this is something that would have been really hard for them to comprehend. Because again, the way things worked at the time was after 3 times, you don't have to forgive somebody anymore. However, Jesus knew this, and so he goes on with a little bit of a story. Verse 23 and on says this, Therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. And since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. And so the servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. Now, there's a lot going on with that story. First off, we see this guy, based on my version, your version of the Bible may read a little bit differently, but it says that he owed 10,000 bags of gold. Now, this is an amount of money that we're not really familiar with. Most of you all don't carry around bags of gold on a regular basis. If you have bags of gold, go ahead, leave it in the chat over here, and let me know how many bags of gold you carry around on a daily basis. The truth is, none of you do. None of you carry around any bags of gold. It's not a currency that we use. And so what this is meant to represent for us is not a actual physical currency. Instead, this is supposed to be an amount of money that was considered unpayable. So imagine for you, even if you carry around 77, 80 bags, 4 bags, 0.5 bags, whatever it is, realize this was a debt that's unpayable. So I want you to think, if you're a middle school student or you're a high school student, let's pretend that you owed someone $2 million. That's a lot of money. That's a ton of money. There's no way many of you would even be able to pay back $2 million in your lifetime. You could work the rest of your life and that amount of money would not be payable. There's no way you would ever get out of debt. And that's the kind of the same situation that this guy was held in. He owed that much money. It was unpayable. There's no way he was ever going to be able to pay back his master the amount of money that he owed. And so even the selling of his wife and his children weren't even going to be able to repay this debt, even though it might have been a common practice at the time. This wasn't something that was going to make up for the 10,000 bags of gold that this man owed. However, we see that he does fall on his knees, and his master ultimately forgives every single piece of the debt. And that's a lot. I mean, think about that for a second. If you owed me $2 million and I forgave you of that debt, I mean, it would free you up for the rest of your life. That would make you really excited. You would probably want to throw some kind of awesome party for something like this, for that amount of money being forgiven. However, let's see what happens next. Let's see what this guy does as soon as he leaves his master's presence. It says in verse 28, but when the servant went out, he found that one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. So 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and he began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. Now, you would think this is easy. You would think this is obvious. This guy just had a debt of 10,000 bags of gold forgiven. Yet he goes and finds one of his fellow servants who only owes him 100 silver coins. Far less. This would have been something that maybe could have been paid back after 6 months to a year's work, that this debt could have been paid. Yet this guy chokes him. And it actually says in the next section, verse 29 on, it says, his fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him. Just like the first servant, he begged, be patient with me and I will pay it back. But this guy, the first servant, refuses. And instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt, which creates a problem. If you owe a debt and you're in prison, guess what? You're not making any money, which means you can't pay back the debt that's owed, which means this guy would never get out of his debt with the first servant. So again, let me repeat. Servant 1 owes 10,000 bags of gold, has that debt forgiven by his master. Servant 2 owes servant 1 100 silver coins. And instead, after asking for forgiveness, is thrown into prison and can't earn back the wages that he owes. What do you think happens? Well, luckily, the second servant has some friends, because in verse 31 it says, when the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said. And that word wicked servant, is only used right here in the Bible for how bad this guy actually is. You wicked servant, he said, I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? Duh, like that's obvious. If someone forgives you of that major debt, you should easily forgive somebody else. And so, verse 34, in anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all that he owed. Again, this guy thrown into prison and tortured until he paid back all that he owed. But when you're in prison, you're not making money. So this guy now has an unpayable debt and will have no way of even hoping to pay that off. And this all gets summed up in verse 35. Here's how Jesus closes the story. The master storyteller says, this is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart. The story is meant to be something that pushes back on us a little bit, because we think this idea of forgiveness is pretty easy. But think about it for a second. Think about the last time you held a grudge against somebody. Think about the last time somebody else wronged you. How easy was it to actually forgive that person? Are some of you still carrying a grudge that you've had for, I don't know, weeks, months, years? Was there somebody who wronged you before we all went into quarantine that you still haven't been able to get past this debt against you, basically? You know who this actually hurts, carrying on that kind of grudge, carrying on that kind of weight? It only affects you. It only affects me. The people who hold the grudges and fail to forgive people only affects us. The person that we need to forgive, they're going on and living their everyday life. But for us, we're tortured with it. We think about it. We're trying to figure out every little thing that they post on Instagram or Snapchat. Is it secretly about us? Or are they some way trying to just nip at us every day, trying to get at us? And it's really just harming us by holding on to that grudge. And so the problem for a lot of us is we think, well, they've wronged me in such a terrible way that there is no way I could ever forgive them. But that creates a problem. It means we still haven't let go and we haven't paid attention to what this story is trying to tell us. Jesus isn't focusing on the debt that other people have against us, the things that we need to forgive them for. He wants people in the story to realize that I and you and everybody else reading the story is the first servant. We're not the first master. We're not the second servant. We're not the other servants. The person that we should all identify with in this story is the first servant. Each and every one of us, because we fail to forgive people of little things, while God has forgiven us something amazing, a debt that is completely unpayable, he has forgiven us of. And yet we are that first servant who goes to our brother, our sister, our enemies at school, whoever it is, and we hold that debt against them and fail to forgive them of the ways that they have wronged us. We have the issue of that first servant. And you may think to yourself, you know, Drew, you don't realize how much this person has wronged me. You don't realize what these people have done to me. But I think you're missing the point because you're still focusing on you and what has been done wrong to you. The point again of this story is recognizing not what other people have done to like us, but it's what we've done to God and the forgiveness that He's given to each and every one of us. And what Jesus is trying to get at in this story is to help us realize that we need to forgive like we have been forgiven. Suddenly, when you start to look and develop a new way of seeing things, forgiveness becomes a little bit easier because it's not about what people have done to us. Instead, it's about what we have been forgiven of. And if we can be forgiven of all the terrible things that we have done to God, then it becomes a lot easier to forgive other people of the little things that they've done. Because honestly, it's like that comparison in the Bible, the 10,000 bags of gold versus the 100 pieces of silver. The things that we have done to God are insane. We have sinned in so many ways. We do it on a regular basis. We've been forgiven of that, and yet one person says something negative about us. And we would love to throw them in prison and see them tortured, probably. Many of you won't say that out loud, or maybe some of you will. However, that's what we want to do. You know, we start to really see the uglier side of ourselves. We see the pride that we deal with. That's an ugly obstacle in forgiving other people. We have judgmental attitudes towards the people around us and the things that they do against us. We have secret sins that we don't want to deal with or let other people uncover. Our words towards our parents, towards our friends, towards our siblings is definitely something that doesn't reflect the will of God. And even our envy and jealousy eats at us on a daily basis. We have piles of sin that we have each been forgiven of, and yet we fail to forgive the people around us. What I want to do to kind of close this live video is give you all a second to either pull out a phone, to pull out a piece of paper, make a note of something somewhere. What I want you to do is find a place where you can record two things. Maybe you can take out two cards, rip a piece of paper in half. I don't know. Find something around you. And if you've got to walk away from the screen to do it, hold on just a second. I'm going to give you some instructions. Then you can go do it. But I want you to write down two things. The first, what I did to someone. So you're going to write that on a piece of paper, write it out on your phone. And then the second thing is what someone did to me. Now, you're going to have to take a second to think about this, because the first one is going to be really hard for you to come up with. What's something that you've done to someone recently that you probably need to be forgiven of? Maybe it's, subtweeting somebody. Maybe it's sharing a nasty picture of someone. Maybe it's the way you've treated your parents. You've done something that's awful that you really need to be forgiven of. Maybe it's something that's a sin that you've struggled with God for a long time, that you would love to get over, but for some reason you can't. Whatever that is, I want you to write that down either on your phone or a piece of paper. And then the second thing, what someone else did to me. What's something that you've been holding on to against somebody for a really long time? What's something that someone else did to you that you've just been struggling with? It's been eating at you. You've been trying to figure out why they did it to you. What's something that you need to forgive someone else of? So write those two things down. You can do it right now. You can do it after this video is over. I'm almost done. But you need to record those two things, because if you have the opportunity, I want to talk to you about them in some kind of small group tonight. Talk with your small group leaders. Figure out a way that you all can get together and talk through those two things. You don't have to give specifics, but you need to come up with ways that, first, that you can forgive somebody else, and two, that you can also ask forgiveness from somebody else or from God. We've got to learn, one, how to be forgiven, and then two, learn how to forgive others, because forgiven people forgive people. So if you realize just how forgiven you really are, suddenly it becomes a lot easier to forgive other people no matter what they've done, because you recognize that you need to be forgiven of so many things. So that's your challenge tonight. That's the application. Realize that you are the first servant of this story. You are forgiven of so much, and you need to forgive other people. Forgive like you've been forgiven. So take that time, if you need to right now, find a way to write that out. Maybe you've already done it. Here in a little while, hopefully you can reach out to your small group leaders. Your small group leaders might reach out to you. remind the other people in your small group to go and watch this video. It's only 20 something minutes long, so they have a chance. I'd like for all the small groups, if they can, to get together maybe around 7, sooner if everybody else is ready. But try to reach out to one another tonight. Try to get together with your small group, whether it's on FaceTime together, whether it's on Google Hangouts. I think we've got access to Zoom if anybody wants to use that. There's lots of ways to hang out. I mean, even if you get on, I don't know, Discord, I don't care what it is. Get on together, have a chat with one another. Have an opportunity to see somebody else's face, because I feel like for a lot of us, it's been a while since we've actually been able to see our friends. So I just want to let you guys know I love you all. I miss you all. Hopefully we'll be together soon. But until then, we'll try to come up with some more ways where we can interact online, see each other's faces, because while I get to see your all's chats, I still don't get to see you in person. Seeing your words are great, but I want to get to see you all. Maybe I'll get a chance to video chat with you all throughout the week. So be good. Do those 2 things. Figure out a way you can get together with your small group. I love you guys. See you later.